Top 10 Most Speedrun Games. For those who are unaware, speedrunning is a common practice among gamers in which players attempt to set records by completing games as quickly as they can. To do this, players will spend less time exploring virtual worlds and focus on what is required to advance through the game, occasionally employing bugs or cutting-edge strategies to accomplish so. To beat their personal best or even set a world record, players who perform the best time speed runs frequently need to be very skilled and committed. Both can call for several tries, with players having to repeatedly resume runs in the event of scuffed runs. Watch this video all the way through to see the list of games in order of most runs. Number 10. The Lion King. The Lion King was intended to be extremely challenging to finish. Not because the developers were cruel or anything, but rather because they could entice gamers to buy the game rather than just rent it. Given that the game is believed to have sold more than 4 million copies throughout its existence, their method appears to have worked quite well. The fact that the game was made available for both the Genesis and the SNES, even though the two versions varied slightly, helped in this regard. The second level of the Genesis version is extremely challenging, with platforming and puzzle aspects that will have less experienced players sobbing and tearing out their hair. This hasn't stopped players from speedrunning the game, though. The current record holder finished it in 12 minutes and 19 seconds. Number 9. Cloudberry Kingdom. A platform game called Cloudberry Kingdom, which debuted on the PlayStation 3 in 2013, has hundreds of distinct levels. Even with the use of guides, many individuals have attempted and failed to finish the game on YouTube. Then some have mastered speedrunning. Even though the game Cloudberry has a reputation for being among the hardest on the system, the speedrunning community has amassed some incredible times. Number 8. Bloodborne. The current record holder finished Bloodborne's story mode in just 1 hour and 10 minutes, beating the average player's time for just the first chapter. Bloodborne is arguably the most challenging of the Dark Souls games, but they are all notoriously challenging. The controls can be a little challenging to get used to, and the adversaries are challenging to defeat because they have extremely distinct patterns. Players may need several hours to fully understand the game as a result, never mind beating it. There are people out there who can glide through the entire game in far under an hour, even though many people give up once they encounter the first boss. The any % record has been lowered during the past 6 months to under 20 minutes. And the game's completion and boss elimination have both been accomplished in only 1 hour and 2 minutes. Number 7. Doom. One of the most well-known and famous first-person shooter games of all time, Doom has been ported to nearly every console available. Given this, it shouldn't come as a surprise that speedrunners also enjoy it and that many have attempted to break the record throughout the years. It's difficult to conceive how many hours it takes to practice the game to the level necessary to accomplish the kind of time some of them do, but one can assume that it surely takes hundreds of hours. In either case, it takes under 20 minutes to finish all 4 episodes of Ultimate Doom on UV speed. Number 6. Spelunky. Independent platformer Spelunky is a huge hit with roguelike aficionados thanks to its straightforward yet well-executed features. It's demanding, but fatalities rarely feel cheap, and the thrill of finishing a challenging segment more than makes up for a few moments of annoyance. The game is liked by the speedrunning community as a result of this. Moreover, the game can be finished in under 2 minutes. The current any % time is only 97 seconds, and it took less than 26 minutes to complete the game and collect all 114 diary entries. Number 5. Outlast. To speedrun competitively, many games need frame-perfect inputs and a thorough mastery of their mechanics. Outlast, on the other hand, derives much of its difficulty from requiring players to be constantly aware of their surroundings. All it takes is a brief gap in focus to finish a run. Thankfully, many speedrunners have an abundance of this kind of attention, which allows them to blast through the game's main campaign at incredible speeds. In comparison to anything found inside the game's asylum, the current 100% time is only 35.5 minutes, while the any % time is just over 8. Number 4. Cuphead. The most challenging gun game out there is probably Cuphead. Although the premise and controls are straightforward, the game itself is anything but. Over the years, it has caused innumerable players difficulties, but, as is frequently the case, the speedrunning community has its number. Players have completed the game's 20 stages in an absurdly short period, even on the toughest difficulty setting. It will be challenging to break the current record, time holder of 25 minutes and 15 seconds at the expert difficulty. Number 3. The Mario series of video games. It would seem that Super Mario would be another difficult series to complete in a short amount of time, but a search on YouTube for Mario speedruns reveals otherwise. The ability to speedrun through video games is today something that a lot of people have mastered, whereas it could have seemed impossible to do so 20 years ago. Super Mario 64 is without a doubt the apex of the Mario speedrunning series, even if speedrunners like every game in the series. There are many additional categories available, but the run for 120 stars is by far the most challenging. Cheese, who now holds the record for completing the game in the fastest time possible, did so in a staggering 1 hour and 38 minutes and 25 seconds. Number 2. The Legend of Zelda series of video games. There has been a significant uptick in the practice of speedrunning the Legend of Zelda games, from older titles such as Ocarina of Time to the most recent installment, Breath of the Wild. When playing a game like Breath of the Wild, a lot is going on at once, and some people might have trouble comprehending why someone would want to play through the game as quickly as possible. Likely, being that skilled on the internet and in the gaming world has a lot to do with it, but for some people, it's simply a matter of demonstrating to themselves that they can do it. One person who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone is the speedrun.com user known as Player5, who just cut the time needed to complete Breath of the Wild any percent down to only 26 minutes and 24 seconds. Number 1. Skyrim. Skyrim is renowned for stealing people's social life because it requires a significant amount of gameplay before it can be completed. To the average player, the concept of trying to complete it in a shorter amount of time than normal may sound unusual, but in reality, it is not nearly as difficult as it may appear at first glance. Because progressing through the main storyline isn't overly taxing, the majority of the game's length comes from the extensive number of optional pursuits and diversions it offers. A high level of talent is required to achieve this feat in the same amount of time as some speedrunners have been able to. The current record is lower than 30 minutes, which, when loading times are factored in, becomes lower than 23 minutes. This is the end of today's video. Do you find it helpful? Must give your response in our comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos.